Family, welcome to our broadcast tonight. I'm excited that you have joined us. This is going to be fire. You understand? This panel are some of the most dynamic leaders in Chicago who are making impacts across the country. And this conversation is going to be a conversation. So I hope that you all check in on the comments, okay? We want to hear from you. And since most of you all I know are probably joining from Chicago, and we know how important this is, okay? I want to know, South Side, West Side, North Side, where you at? I feel like all of our panelists represent every side of the city. So go off, okay? And if you feel so inclined, tell us what neighborhood you from too, because I know that's important, okay? South Side right here. So let's go. Let's start digging in. I don't want to waste any time or their time or your time because this conversation is so incredibly important. We're going to talk about LGBTQ plus rights in 2025 and beyond, right? This is a critical time. But also, I feel like every moment is a critical time for LGBTQ folks. What's happening right now is not new to us, right? But what is happening on social media, the temperature of the country, how people are feeling. Some of these things are new. And so how are we advocating? How are we organizing? How are we working together across lines, across the city, across the grid? Yes, across the 77 to find solutions and to work together to ensure all of our needs are being met. And so that is the conversation for tonight. I'm looking forward to it. Big thank you to Center on Halsted for pulling this all together and partnering with E3 Radio to make this happen. So let's dig in. Let's start introducing our panelists. First up, Jolie, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. And now that I've realized where my unmute and mute button is, I am so excited. Anna Deshawn, thank you for hosting this amazing conversation this evening. Thank you for Kelly and all the planning that has happened this evening. I'm Jolie Robinson. I'm the CEO at Center on Halsted, and really looking forward to an awesome conversation with some dynamite panelists and you.
100%. Now, this is an E3 Radio Center on Halsted collaboration. So I have to ask, what song or album is getting you through this moment right now?
So I'm going to be fully transparent. Gucci Mane gets me through in the gym in the morning every time. Listen. And then Kendrick Lamar and We Gonna Be All Right is always my anthem song and my go-to when I need to remind myself that we gonna be all right.
I know that's right. The balance of it all. Okay, Gucci Mane to Kendrick Lamar. I'm here for it. Zahara, what's going on, Zahara? Welcome to the broadcast.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Sahara Basset, pronouns she, her, and hers. I'm the founder and CEO of Life is Work.
Yes, indeed. Now, what song, album getting you through right now?
You know what? I was kind of going through my thing before you threw me on the media for the role of that. But I would have to say, because I'm a church girl. My grandfather is a pastor. Lord bless the dead. So I was going through, and first thing popped up was Latasha Page Lockhart album. She did Trap Worship with this group called Trap Worship. They like anthems, and it's called Fight for You, which I have on replay every morning. I drop my son off to school, so it's a really, really good song that kind of keeps me going and knowing that I keep my faith garnered and knowing that He'll fight for me.
That part, I already see. There's balance, okay? It's trap and gospel all in the same sentence, people. All right, let's go. I need to check out that album. I don't think I have heard that. Manny, welcome to the broadcast.
Hello, thanks for having me. My name is Manuel Hernandez. I am the executive director for Alma Chicago. It's a long name, the Association of Latinos, Latina Motivating Action. And I would say there's two albums that I have on repeat right now is the Bad Bunny, Debí Tirar Más Fotos, and then the soundtrack for the Wicked movie. On repeat every day. I'm pretty sure my partner is sick and tired of listening.
You're defying gravity at any moment?
At all times.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about how many times I've watched it. Okay. John, welcome. Yeah.
Yep, we were talking about that unmute button, and here it is. Yep, first victim. John Peller, he, him, his pronouns, President, CEO of AIDS Foundation Chicago. Thank you so much for having me tonight. And what I am super into right now, just discovered her, is Kalia X, who is an amazing young lady from Chicago. Just heard her interviewed on WBEZ, and she sang the national anthem and blew folks away at a Bulls game earlier this year. And so great R&B singer who is emerging in Chicago. So check her out.
You better come through with the independent artist, John. Okay, I love that. Come on, WBEZ. We're here for public radio. All right.
Yes.
Family, we're so glad you are here. You all are coming in. Please share this broadcast out. We want as many people to hear this message as humanly possible, but it can't happen without you. So please go ahead and share it. Tell a friend that you're tuned in. And in the comments, sound off. What side of the city are you tuning in from? South side, west side, north side? Do a neighborhood. This is the power of 77. All right. Jolie, let's start with you. Yes? You are leading the largest LGBTQ center in the Midwest. You're doing that. And what unique challenges are you facing right now, given the incoming administration, given the state of all things happening right now, economically, culturally? What is it looking like at the center?
Yeah, there's a plethora of issues across, we use the term intersectionality, but really there's a plethora of issues that are impacting people in different ways. So when we think about the work that we're doing at Center on Halstead, I think about some of the housing work that we do, and how the ridiculous increase in housing costs and the rising housing costs are really impacting people in negative ways. People are finding it more and more difficult to find housing that's affordable for them and to them. That's one thing. When we think about the access to healthcare, the equitable access to healthcare for all, not just physical and medical health, but we think about mental health as well, and how it's getting tougher and tougher for individuals. Number one, to find individuals that are really there to center and meet the needs that they may have. But number two, can they access an appointment? Do they have insurance of their own? Are they able to, pay for the services that they may need? And so those are some of the things that we continue to see. But even more specifically, we also know that our Black trans women continue to see probably the most significant disadvantages across housing, across education, across employment, across those kind of healthcare and medical services. I know we'll get into the conversation, but if you've been kind of following what's happening, at the national level, and even a discussion around the ability for trans girls to play sports is a laughable concept for us to even be addressing as a country. And I lashed out on Facebook yesterday about, like, really, we have nothing else to focus on other than our trans siblings and TikTok as a nation. I'm sure that there are a lot of other issues. And so, not only being here at the Center on Halstead and all of the work that we do, but also knowing that those that we work alongside each and every day in their areas, whether it's Zahara, whether it's John, whether it's Manny, or you, Anna, the strides that we're trying to make, really, we have to keep our foot on the gas. I keep saying that, and I'll always say we got to keep our foot on the gas so that we don't get lulled into a sense of safety.
Yeah, there is no time for lulls, is it? And Zahara, and before I jump in with you, let me be remiss if I didn't see over here on the social medias that you will be getting a reward here in March from the Center on Halstead. Let me get it right, though. The Human First Awardee. So congratulations on that. I will also say congratulations on opening up a new location, right? You moved, there was a ribbon, there was cutting happening. And so we talk about keeping, the pedal, the gas going, right? Not letting up. I feel like that has been your story. So I would love to hear how you are addressing some of the unique challenges on the west side of Chicago.
Well, as we know, the West Side is a resource desert and has been for some decades now. And it's further than, as we said, beyond the LGBTQIA plus spectrum. It's the intersectionalities of, the marginalized communities of these resource deserts. So Life is Work is a safe haven where we provide full wraparound services with housing support, HIV testing, workforce development. For Resource Center, we came about of, I think, 750 square feet that we spent 5 years in. And forever growing. We're currently at 9 staff members, but this work can't be done without collaborative efforts, right? With people like AFC who had came along and saw the vision and saw and said, hey, you want to do housing, let us help you and support that and reach more people. So yeah, that's how it brought us about to where we at now at 600 North Cicero. You know, we have expanded with serving people for supportive housing, when that supportive housing range from people that's living with people who are fleeing domestic violence and unsheltered, right? Those are the main things, key issues that we're seeing around the city. And it's beyond being trans, as I say, and being identity. It's within our marginalized community that we're constantly suffering. I myself worked across the city for many years in many organizations, larger organizations, and kept asking for resources to be placed on the West Side. So never happened, and voila, here we are. Yeah, just like that, right? Yeah, so we here we are on the West Side in 2,600 square feet at 600 North Cicero, and providing sustainable services and continue to build out services that are anchored in collaboration, because that's the only way we're going to survive in these next 4 years. And I'm sure we're going to get deeper into that conversation. So I'll leave it there.
You better say 2,600 square feet. Okay. You better say we're from 900 to 2,600 square feet. Let us not gloss over that. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. But like I say, it could not be done without collaborative efforts. You know, no one, you know, I have this saying I say with my best friend who's actually on the live, Rome wasn't built in a day, and she'll come back and say, so wasn't Chicago. And I, you know, I have that motto in my head, is like, we can't do it alone. So it has to be built in a collaborative effort.
Has to be. Manny, Alma. I think Alma is celebrating 30 years this year?
35.
35 years this year. I mean, this is a moment for you all to be celebrating, and leadership for you and this tackling the challenges specifically for the Latinx community here in Chicago. I'd love to talk about what you're doing at Alma, the unique challenges there, and how you've really expanded the mission, and how Alma has expanded its mission and reach under your leadership.
Yeah, so I like you mentioned, Alma is now celebrating 35 years of service. We are the oldest Latina LGBT organization in the Midwest. And although we celebrate it, also we're the second oldest still in existence in the country. It just also highlights the fact that many organizations and individuals that came before us had to close their doors. And that is scary to realize, but what we are doing is focusing primarily on the advocacy efforts. We are one of the organizations that do not provide direct client services, because there are organizations like the Center on Halstead, like AFC, like Life is Work, that are doing the work, and there is no need for us to also then compete for those resources that are every year being cut down and saying, oh, there isn't the money for that kind of work, when we know that there are organizations and institutions that are doing this kind of work. So we best support through collaboration in the advocacy side, making sure that those resources are available to the organizations that are providing this work. And then also through leadership development. We know, and we on this panel know, that it's exhausting work. There's times where the day ends and I just close the computer and I just want to sit in silence because I am exhausted. And we know that I'm not going to be doing this work forever. And so we need to also invest in the development of the leaders that exist in our communities right now, for the leaders that we need now and in the future. And so that's the work that we are really focusing on. We started the Latina and LGBT Advocacy Leadership Institute, which is focused on effective advocacy. How do we go from protest to policy, right? Because we know that policy is where that change happens on the long term. And so how do we transition, and how do we develop the advocates in our communities to effectively advocate for our needs? And knowing that just because it's LGBT issues doesn't mean it doesn't affect you, right? We talk about marriage equality. We talk about equitable healthcare and housing, and realizing that housing affects all of us. Yes, it disproportionately affects LGBT people of color, specifically youth, but it affects all of us. It touches all of our lives, whether we want to admit it or not, we know someone who is housing insecure, whether in our family or a friend. So these issues, although our LGBT issues, are also human issues. They are issues that we all face and can also relate to. And so the work that we're doing is really bringing also the humanity to our issues. We're talking about healthcare access. Well, yes, healthcare also is a housing issue, right? I'm not going to think about my healthcare if I don't have anywhere else to put my head to sleep. And so bringing that and realizing that this affects all of us is extremely important. And so in our leadership development, focusing on true allyship, what is an active ally and not a passive ally? How do you put your words to action? How do you put your money where your mouth is also? Because you can say, yes, I support that work and never really invest in the work. Then what's the point? And so really developing advocates in our communities and active allies in our communities.
Love that. Can never have too much of that. We're going to dig more into that too. John, last definitely not least, okay, AFC been doing this work in Chicago. I don't know how long. Feel like AFC?
So actually, Manuel, we have a couple of years up on you. This is our 40th anniversary.
Okay, I feel like I can also say
the big 4-0.
Big 4-0. I felt like it was forever. It was pretty close. And I feel like there's a lot of organizations celebrating this year, their anniversaries. Yes. So y'all just get ready. Everybody tuned in, okay? Just save monthly, okay, for the parties, because it's all happening in 2025. But John, please tell us, what does it look like for AFC right now? I saw some news about potential cuts to funding as it pertains to access to PrEP. I mean, I think the landscape continues to change as we talk about HIV advocacy, right? And so I would love to hear from you about what it looks like for AFC right now.
Yeah, so we have two main goals at AIDS Foundation Chicago. The first is ending the HIV epidemic, and the second is ending homelessness. And like we'll be done by 6, and we can all go home because But just kidding. We like big goals and we like to be ambitious, and we do that work in a lot of ways. And one of the ways is partnerships, and our partnerships with some of you on today's conversation is really what powers AFC. Jolie, we have the HIV Hub, which is connected over 2,000 people to resources last year, like PrEP and HIV testing and emergency financial assistance so folks don't get evicted. Zahara, our housing partnership with you all at Life is Work, is helping people living with HIV get housing. And that is just vital. And my team told me this yesterday, and I was floored. Sometimes you don't see the big picture until your team adds it all up at the end of the year. We helped 500 people find housing last year, who are formerly homeless, many of them living with HIV. Some of them were living unsheltered on the streets. So I'm so proud of that impact. We are all about addressing racial health disparities at AFC. And that's what's driving the HIV epidemic. That's why about 80% of people who are living with HIV are Black and Latinx. About 80% of people who are homeless in Chicago are Black. This is because of systemic racism. This isn't because of individual failings. We're dealing with racist systems. And we at AIDS Foundation, all of us on this call, are treating those symptoms every day, but we've also got to talk about the upstream factors and address those through our policy and advocacy work. And, let's be honest about what's ahead with the Trump administration. The attacks on DEI are real. We had a meeting of our racial equity team today, and I said, we're doubling down on this. And I don't care what people in Washington are saying, but that's at the heart of our work. But I think it's critical that we be optimistic about what's ahead. We have been through the Trump administration before. We know what their playbook is. We know how to fight back, and the fight is starting. I was on a call with a legal organization yesterday who said, hey, remember that lawsuit you were part of in 2019? We're going to have to refile that again. And I'm like, great, change the date. Let's go. So we are ready.
I'm glad y'all ready. Okay. And I think the hope is that we don't ever have to get ready, that we stay ready, right? I think that's why we're kicking off the year with this particular conversation. And John, I want to stay with you for a second because the next thing I want to talk about are these partnerships, right? We're all located all across the city, all experiencing some of the same needs. But how does an AFC, right, partner with a center on Halsted, a Life is Work, and Alma Chicago? What does that actually look like tangibly in real life, right? So that we are impacting as many people as we possibly can.
So AIDS Foundation is built on partnerships and always has been. And I think the two of the examples that I just shared, we fund 2 case managers at Life is Work to help people living with HIV find housing. And we're paying their rents, but Zahara and Terrence and her team are just out there in the community. And I know Zahara is going to look at units and make sure that she's like, no, I'm not putting someone in this place, which is amazing.
So and then can I pause you right there 1 second, John? So family, I think that that's a really dope. Okay. So I really want to just pause right here. Like, this is how we do work effectively as community. You have an organization like AFC. Did you know that they were funding 2 people, right, at Life is Work in this particular way? Do you know that this is how we are working here in Chicago? People often say, Chicago is an organizing city. It is. And this is how tangibly it shows up in real life. Okay. I just wanted to pause. So I just think that's like an amazing way to work with each other. Keep going, John.
Thank you. And then with our partnership with Center on Halsted with Jolie, they have been running the state AIDS hotline for 35 years. And when an opportunity came up from the Chicago Department of Public Health, we said, let's work together on this. If the city of Chicago wants to start a hotline for HIV services, like, let's go to the best in the business. And we have partnered on this and just helped an incredible number of people get really, really vital services and get connected to resources, both living with HIV and people who are vulnerable to HIV. It's the HIV Health Hub, so you can Google it and find it. So those partnerships, and of course, we work with Alma on advocacy. And we have our federal policy person, Omar Martinez Gonzalez, who's focused on DC, and we have Tim and ACES who are focused on Springfield, and one of them is down there along with Dominique Chu in Springfield. Every day there's a session day, and we are fighting for more funding for housing. We just passed legislation 2 years ago that we're working on implementing to make sure that people to help people living with HIV, people get PrEP in pharmacies. So you're going to be able to walk into like a Walgreens and say, hey, I want PrEP, and walk out with a pill bottle once we get that implemented. So that's the kind of work that we're doing. And we always do this work in partnership with the community.
And I love that example you just gave about being able to walk into Walgreens, and get your PrEP and walk out. I think sometimes we don't understand just how policy does affect our everyday life, because the people in charge of communicating that are awful. So we oftentimes don't know how policy actually can impact our everyday lives. Now, being who we are, our lives are political, period. But there are like some very tangible ways in which policy can impact our everyday life. And I love that example of how that can actually happen. Manny, I want to talk to you about good liberals. Air quotes all over that word. Okay. They say they're our friends, but I know they're not, because only 75 million voted for Harris. Okay. We didn't quite make it. I am looking for the 75 though. I just want y'all to know y'all gonna hear that from me a lot this year. Okay. I just want to talk to the 75. Okay. And the 92. Okay. 75 and the 92. Those are my numbers. But man, we know that these good liberals, right, aren't always good friends and allies to the LGBTQ plus community. And so how do we have these candid, courageous types of conversations with these good liberals, right, to talk about how they can actually impact real change and what it means to really be a comrade in this? And you talked a little bit about this earlier, this active ally situation versus passive. Talk to us about how that actually happens.
Yeah. So when it comes to allyship, and usually I steer away from the term, from using the word ally or the title of ally, because I don't need an ally, I need an accomplice. I need someone who is willing to roll their sleeves and go up against a system that they benefit from. And that's what true, right, allyship is when you realize that you benefit from this system that oppresses me and my community, and you stand up and do something against it, right, to address that issue. And even within our communities, right, I can be an ally to someone within my community, right? I know and recognize the immense privilege I have as a cisgendered man. And so how am I showing up and showing out for those within my community that are being disenfranchised or being oppressed by a system that benefits me? And so that's what real allyship looks like, right? That is putting words to action. If I'm saying I'm here for you and patting you on your back, that's an ally. Where an accomplice is, I'm here for you, and now where do we get started? What do you need from me so that I can go ahead and best support you? And that's what real allyship looks like, right? And there's quite a few people in my life that I thank. One who is my board secretary, Mary Johnson, who is a cisgendered straight white woman who is on the board of a Latina queer organization, who knows what it is to be an ally, to show up, to really put her words into action. And that I always praise her for what a real accomplice looks like. Someone who knows that there's a system that she benefits from, but is willing to stand up against it because she knows, right, the communities that are oppressed or marginalized as a result of this are being pushed to the side or are being ignored. And so that's what we really need within our communities, is seeing individuals who are going to stand up, right, and stand out for causes and issues that maybe may not directly affect them, realizing that it just because it doesn't affect you doesn't mean it's not what you're supposed to stand up against, right? And so that's where we see the active and the passive allyship. And for us, it's just, right, putting your money where your mouth is. There's a lot of small organizations, and we're seeing and already know the threats of funding that's going to come, that are going to affect our organizations. And so we really rely, and as an organization at Alma, we rely on our individual donors. That's where most of our support comes from, are from individual donors, because we know that when funding comes and is getting cut on a state and on a national level, it's the small organizations that suffer the most. And so we rely heavily on our individual donors. So as an ally, as an accomplice in this fight for equity and equality for all, you have to also support these smaller organizations and these institutions that are doing the work, right? Because if the money is there or not, Alma, for example, 33 years as a volunteer-led organization, with or without the money, the work is going to get done. And so we can be best effective if we have the resources to really do the work. And so that's where we rely on true allyship, and individuals to go down to the State House, go down with us to Springfield, go down with us to DC, to talk to our legislators and let them know this is what's going on the ground in our communities, even if you are not in particular member of that community.
100%. And Jolie, I want to ask you about this part of it. Those good liberals, those passive allies, right?
Yeah.
That didn't show up in the 75.
Yeah.
How do we when do we call those people in, and when do we call those people out? Also recognizing our own, right? None of us are perfect.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes, quite literally. And we just all hoping nobody finds out, okay? Out here on the socials, because it can get wild in these streets, right? But
Yeah.
at what point how do we do that effectively with our passive allies or even our partners, right?
Yeah. Number one, I have people search their own heart and their own soul for the capacity to even do that. So, and I've been in a place where I've been very honest with folks who probably needed me to teach and educate them on how to be an ally or the ways in which they can show up as an accomplice. And I did not have the patience for the conversation. And so I can own that. And I can always say that to tell an individual, hey, I may not be the right person for this conversation today because I don't have the patience for it. I don't have the right words. It's not going to make you feel good in this moment. And I might say, no, duh. And that's probably not what you want to hear because you need to be called in. Right. So I tell people, search yourself first. See if you're in a place mentally, spiritually, emotionally to engage people and call them in. And if you are not, give yourself grace because that is okay. It is hard challenge to be a Black woman that's always nurturing, teaching, and supporting individuals. And some days I just don't have it. And that's okay too. Family, right? And so the opportunity to search yourself to understand, do you have the capacity emotionally, mentally, and spiritually to make that happen?
Yeah.
But there's also a variety of resources that you can provide, whether it's a book, whether it's a webinar, whether it's just coming in. One of the ways we can call people in at the Center on Halstead is come into our center, see the work that we're doing, feel the energy, talk to the individuals that are doing this work so that you can hear about the work that's happening. The last thing I'll add is I'm huge on narrative. I'm huge on narrative change. I'm huge on telling our stories because I know that making it real, right? My birth father was unhoused for 15 years. He passed away a couple of years ago under a bridge in Atlanta. The most present man I've ever had in my life called me every month. I don't know how he got a cell phone, but he called me every month. Those Obama phones, as they called them on the streets as well. And I bring my story into the room when I'm talking to individuals. They can understand these issues of housing or food insecurity are real and pressing for all individuals, regardless of what you see on the outside. All of us have that something behind us, either that's driving us or pushing us, or is sometimes operating as a hindrance around us because is hard to get through. So I think that's kind of how we can do it. That's really tangible ways you can tell your story and your narrative that may be able to get people, not in a way that um, is putting your own story on blast if and you're not comfortable there, but in a way that really invites people in to understand your unique experience and or the experience of your people so they can understand in that regard. But there's also like, hey, I'm gonna just leave this, website address with you. I'm gonna let you search it out, come back to me, we can have a conversation and really open up a conversation there. Or there might be somebody else better positioned that you can engage and talk in. So I think that's the area. I don't know, it's my own internal constitution. I'm usually never like I'm gonna call somebody out, like I'm like, bless them. I'm from the South, so I'm like, bless their heart. Go with God and get away from me. Right. But when there's an opportunity or I see that somebody is at least willing, right? They're not asking me questions in a way that's trying to interrogate me or like a gotcha moment, but they're really willing to learn. That's when I utilize that time and that opening to really share either my own personal story or just a little bit more about the work and how it's impacting folks.
Don't hit people with the bless your heart. Okay, they don't even gonna know what to do with that.
Every day, bless your heart.
Bless your heart. And family, bless your heart. We have made it halfway through this panel. Okay. I don't know where time has gone, but it is moving right along. So what I want you to do is listen to Kelly. Okay. She said, submit your questions. Please bring them in. We're going to take your questions at the end of the panel, and it's quickly approaching. And so if there's resources you want to know about, if you got a question for any of these dynamic leaders, okay, this is the time to do it. So please drop your questions in the comments and we'll look to get to them at the end of the broadcast. Zahara, I want to know, when are you calling people in and when are you calling people out?
I don't do too much calling out because I'm not big on public display. I tell people that the truth. So I'm more of a girl that pulls you. I like to pull people in. I'm at heart a teacher and a learner at heart. But I do, as Jolie said, I do have my times and days where, me being a mother and a teacher kind of is overwhelming. And it's like, okay, well, girl, I'll get back to you on that. But I will say that I think that for me, what attracts to call people in is when I know that people who want to learn, when people who want to, as Emmanuel say, accomplice, I like to call them comrades, with people who would like to be a comrade. You know, allies is one thing, right? Okay, yeah, you're champion for me, rah, 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 right? But I saw comrades walked with Martin Luther King in the 60s, right? Those were comrades of white people that came out of their homes, of their privilege, and and walked for civil rights. So those are the people that I like to call in, the people that I know that you got privilege, you got the connections, and I need them. And that's just it. I mean, I like to, more of like, let me tell you about my culture, and if you're willing to learn on that. I'm not here for to beating a dead horse, i.e. represent Nancy. I'm not here for, I'm just being honest. I'm not here for beating a dead horse for your own, political gain of what you're trying to, keep attacking us, but study trying to pull in and understand us. Those are the type of people I just try to steer clear from. You on that side of the road, I'm over here, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm a consistent person, and I tell people that that's how we came about here at Life is Work, is being consistent, right? Many people counted us out 2-3 years ago, said they'll be gone in 3. We had 5. So when we say that, it's about that consistency. It's about that building, those efforts, and, joining on with those who want to walk with you. And don't worry about the others who just want to stand on the other side of the street with their picket signs against you. Because at the end of the day, as long as I'm standing here, the movement will continue to get bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, that part. I love this. I love that we're calling people in. I'm here for that. And I think it happens in relationship. So when Jolie talks about stories and narratives, I do believe storytelling gives us a window into someone else's humanity. And I think it is our humanity that has been lost in the midst of this political onslaught, right? From right-wing Republicans, people who are just ignorant. And I mean, ignorant being they do not know. I'll give a great example. I went to undergrad in Des Moines, Iowa. I made it, okay? But there were people there who had never interacted with a Black person because they grew up in rural Iowa. This is the state of this country. Like we are not so far removed, right, from 1968. We are not so far removed from these moments. This is our generation's fight. This is our time. What will we do with it? And what will history say about us in this moment? I mean, I think these are the things I'm constantly thinking about, and how we can make an impact so the next generation doesn't have to go through the same exact thing. And so with that, we got another question here. And I love this question because it's about joy. As somebody who reports on queer news, Chilla, it is rough in these streets. I properly curate that podcast so we ain't all leaving the podcast and wanting to go under the covers and hide, okay? There is joy happening in our communities, and I would love to hear from you all around how you all are cultivating joy in your organizations, right? And maybe through your programming, maybe it's internal policies, maybe, I'm not sure. But I want to hear how you all are doing it in hopes that people who are tuning in can glean some of that and utilize it in their own lives. Yeah. So Zahara, I would love to start with you. And how are you cultivating joy right now?
I think for me and my staff, well, it's such a happy place. You have to stop in. We're open Tuesday through Fridays from 9 to 5. It's such a welcoming environment that I have an upbeat staff that joy is always in the place. I tell people I don't know how, and just the gods above must have been with me to staff in this way, because it's been a long time I've been on a team that everyone cohesively love each other as a family. And when new people come in, it's just like they fall right into it. So I think it's just the joy cultivated in our work is that we like to see people smile. We like people leaving as they walk in with dignity, they leave out thriving. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's our motto is that you walk in here with dignity and we're going to treat you just as such. Right. You have the dignity, the nerve, the guts, the ambitions to walk through a door and ask for help. Right. So you should walk out feeling even more prouder of yourself that you have accomplished something to get your life started. When we talk about housing and we talk about that's the foundation for what all stability is built. We can't expect people to take their regimens and do all these things that they're supposed to do unless they have somewhere solid as a foundation. And walking through our doors and cultivating within the practices that we do is that we believe in the work that we do. And we try our best to instill that into our clients. Just believe in us and we're going to get you there. Right. And that's what brings us joy. Is like just earlier today, we worked with Humble Design for referring clients over to get their apartments fully furnished before they move in. Right. So one of the case managers was able to get that referral put through that, and hearing the excitement in her, like, oh, okay, they're perfect. They accepted it. That's what brings us joy to know that we can put people in apartments, not in just an empty apartment. You get to walk into an apartment, before you even lay your head, they are actually in there. Humble Design goes in with their team and they furnish the whole apartment.
Wow.
Based off your idea. It's not our idea. They sit down with the client themselves and they go off with the client and furnish the whole apartment. So when the client come back within 8-hour day, their full apartment is furnished.
Wow. What's the name of this group?
It's called Humble Design.
Humble Design. So family, I don't know if you can support Humble Design because they support Life as Work. I mean, I think this is how we do work, right?
This is how we do work. And that's what brings us joy. You know what I'm saying? Being able to even navigate through those resources. We know we don't have the money to furnish someone's whole apartment, right? So how do we connect those dots? And that's what it's all about. I tell people I'm from the West Side, so I'm a born through and through hustler. I'm a woman of faith, but I'm a hustler. And I don't know how to do nothing else. I know how to navigate and know how to get the services that my people need, and build those relationships. So that's what brings us joy, is when we're able to provide joy to other people in need.
I love that. Furnishing a whole apartment in 8 hours. Humble Designs. I thank
you have to see it. I swear to you. It's so real. It's like full trucks, whole crew. And I think everyone works as volunteers with them. It's a full crew. They have full trucks that comes up, furniture, and literally within 8 hours, a full apartment is furnished.
It's like extreme home makeover.
It's so like
you got to be like, move that bus. That's incredible. Wow, that's really awesome. All right, John, how y'all cultivating joy over there at AFC? How are you keeping people encouraged in the work?
So, one very tangible way just this morning was we had a New Year's brunch that our amazing social committee organized. And I tell you, those potatoes smelled amazing and tasted amazing. And the pancakes were delicious. And so just really bringing people together, giving folks a reason to come in. And, at 9 o'clock in the morning, it was before our all staff meeting. It just gave me so much joy to see everybody sitting together and talking and catching up. And for some people meeting each other for the first time, we have 160 staff. So, people are like, yeah, I don't know you. Let's meet, which is a wonderful thing to see. So, we're bringing people together with food and trying all kinds of ways to find joy.
We in Chicago, so food makes a whole lot of sense. Okay. And also food brings people together. Over a kitchen table all day is how we build relationships and take care of each other. You can't do nothing if you're hungry. If your stomach is growling, there is nothing productive happening, right? And I think food is a beautiful way to bring people together. All right, Manny. I feel like Alma has been partying, okay? But tell me how y'all been celebrating. I seen the email, so tell me how can y'all bring in joy?
I'd say, right, with my staff, the first thing that I remind them is, as a Puerto Rican man, my people were at the forefront since October of 1492, right? Fighting for our land, fighting for our rights. And so we've been through this before. And this time around is no different. We will make it through this. And so also focusing on self-care, right? We have our policies, our PTO and our vacation time expires at the end of the year. So use it. You are then forced to use it. Take your time. If you're not feeling well, stay home. It's okay. The work will be here tomorrow. Take some time to find something that relaxes you, that calms you, because also the reminder is that we are the community we're serving. And so we can only be as effective to our communities as we are to ourselves. And so finding that time to take care of yourself, you know what, you want to take the day, you have the time, take the day, go do your nails. And I'm right. I get my nails done every couple weeks. Um, Go do your nails, go get a pedicure, take some time for yourself. And so that is ingrained in our policies. You have to take the time off. Whether you're at home, read a book, go to sleep, take a nap, do something, but you have the time off because you need to recharge. And so also celebrating those small victories. And I think in the mix of it all, we tend to ignore like, oh, that was just a small little task and it got done, but it was something small, so you ignored it and kept on going. But that was still a victory, and celebrate it. And the fact that you got your email, and I do this regularly, I got my email under 200 in my inbox. That was a huge victory. Like, that is an extreme feat. And just being able to celebrate that and be like, oh, okay, now I can take 20 minutes to just breathe because I got my emails under control. So finding those small moments to celebrate really does bring some light to a time that feels like very dark and heavy, and where burnout is real. Where I wake up in the morning, I'm like, ooh, today is not the day. But realizing that I'm going to celebrate these small victories. And right now we're in a 35 years, so we're celebrating a huge victory, but then celebrating the small ones in between as well, I think is extremely important. And that's what I really emphasize with the staff is, hey, celebrate the small victories and you got time off, go take it.
I love that. I love the time off piece. I love the self-care piece. I think self-care can look so many different ways for so many different people. Do what fills your cup, I think, is my advice on that. And I love that. I never took my days in corporate ever. What a regret. So much left on the table. Also, awful at celebrating the small wins. I've gotten better as friends have held me accountable. So, family, I encourage you to do these things. They do make a whole world of difference when you sit there in the morning and you write your gratitude. What are you grateful for today? Today, I am grateful for. I mean, it really does allow you to have some perspective. Um, I'm going to leave it at that. All right, Jolie, what are you all doing to cultivate joy?
Yeah, so a couple of things, there's a snack cart that goes around once a month. And 1 month I was on the snack cart and had music and was dancing. And what do you want? You want a little orange? You want a snack bar? We got it for you. So I'm grateful for we have a diversity council, and I'm grateful for the work that they do in those moments to kind of curate a moment of joy for our organization, and for our team members. We also, after the results of the election were out, we just held space in one of our rooms throughout the day. We had coloring pages. We had vibes in there just for individuals to unplug just a little bit. To the point that was made earlier, the work is going to continue and the work is going to be there, but you have to care for yourself so that you can care for others. And so, making sure that we're curating that space as intentionally as possible is one thing. And then reminding people that you have to be responsible for you and yourself and your heart and what really, gets you going every day. And how can we brainstorm ways? Are you taking your time? I'm that person that'll ask. In a previous role I had, I was like, you know what? It looks like this Friday in a random month is a perfect day for you to take off. Right. So, like, if I started to see, team members that weren't taking off days, and I became a thought partner on how can we brainstorm a way where you're going to take some days. Do you need some help planning your day? Because I can help you. I can give you a spa contact, a masseuse. You need to get your nails done. You want some eyelashes. I can help you curate that moment for yourself and whatever that looks like. And then personally, I really got on board to the movement about Black women and rest several years ago. So I really stay kind of close to the vest on the number of evenings I'm out after work, right? I really try to hold that time and space sacred for myself, so that I'm not out every night of the week in some sort of work capacity. I'm very intentional around, guarding my time and what that looks like with me engaging other people that don't mean me any good, right? And so how do I ensure that, I'm kind of guarding my own heart in that way so that I can continue to keep, and maintain that space for joy. So that's kind of not only, the work that we try to do at Center on Halstead. I, am really blessed to be in a position of CEO as well, because one of the things I try to do, and probably every day I'm not successful, is how do I give like that silent permission just to be joyful? How am I saying good morning? How am I engaging individuals as I'm walking through the building every day? How am I engaging clients that I might run into, in the hallways at Center on Halstead? And how do I uplift individuals either by calling them by their name or like, asking a question about their day or how they're doing? How can I continue to spread that joy through my interactions with individuals?
I love that. And I've loved watching your journey exploring Chicago. So I know you're doing this for real in real life. You've probably done more than I have. I'm like, I need to be a tourist in this city. And I've loved watching it. Family, we got 10 minutes left on the panel because these folks' time is precious, okay? And it's the end of their day. They holding on by a string with me right now on this broadcast. So we've got 10 minutes left. I've got one more question to ask. But if you have a question, this is the time to send it in. Kelly is in the chat and looking for your questions because we want to engage with you. This is a conversation. We want to be in conversation with you. So let's see what we got going on here. Oh, and I did see B. Jones. I did see you wanting a link. I got you. I'm going to drop links to all of the organizations' Instagram pages here in just a second. Let's see here. We do have a question. What supporting housing agencies do you partner with when locating housing for your clients? And they said, apologies if this was answered already, but I don't think that this was. Who's a good person to take this one?
I can take that one. So we have an amazing network of housing organizations across Chicago that we partner with who are doing case management, and ranges from folks like Chicago House. Obviously, we talked about Zahara and her team's role. Heartland is one. Deborah's Place is another for women. Housing opportunities for women, really phenomenal partners who are out there doing the day-to-day work of finding landlords who are willing to rent to folks who often have criminal backgrounds, often have really bad credit histories, and the amazing teams of case managers know that these organizations are trustworthy and have just done a fantastic job of working with landlords to say, hey, we got this person's back. We're going to pay their rent. If there's problems, we're there to address them. And we know that housing first is what works. And this is actually one of the things that the Trump administration is trying to tear down. They're saying, if you need housing, you got to go substance abuse treatment. You got to go to mental health treatment. Well, where are people going to get that? We know that those resources are not available. The evidence shows that for someone who has a serious substance use issue, serious mental health issue, serious chronic physical health conditions, getting them in housing is the most important and best first step that we can take to help people manage their mental health better, to use substances less, and then do things like go to medical appointments and take care of their HIV, take care of their diabetes, heart disease, whatever it is, so that they can get healthy.
Thank you, John. All right, we have another question here. They're coming in, so let's go. Here we go. I'm sorry if I was late, if this was covered. I don't think it was. Anna, appreciate this question. Have any of you shifted industries? I used to be in arts, nonprofits, lots of passive allies, and I'm having trouble transitioning to the social services sector. Anybody want to take that one?
I was in research before I became. I was in research. Prep. I was in the original prep when prep started being introduced into Chicago for adherence. I was in research originally and then shifted into leadership. But I think for me, the shift, it was still nonprofit. And I think that it was still, still public health. So it wasn't a big shift. And even though I shifted more so into social service more than anything, Yeah, but I think I think for me, because I see that they say they're having trouble transitioning into the social service sector.
Yeah.
I think that it's about, being consistent, as I said to anyone. It's about being consistent. One door closes, another one open, and it may not be a big one, but just walk through it. All right. I remember stepping away from social service. Stepping away from public health back in 2016 for a year or two and went back to school. Right. And built my capacity a little bit more than where I was, and then came back into it. So yeah, it's being consistent and just continue to knock on those doors. I would tell anyone, don't take no for an answer, because many will tell you no.
Yeah, no just means not right now. Sorry.
Yeah.
Manny, you had something else?
All right, now we don't know you right now, and then that goes right into the comrades and the allies and because a lot of times you get through doors, and I tell people this the truth. I'm not happen to be sitting on this prestigious panel by incident, right?
Well,
it happens to be sitting here because someone has introduced me and brought me into a room to say she's ready. Right. And excuse my French, that's fucked up that it has to be that way. Right. Because I'm like, I have just the same skill set as anyone else is sitting here. But, it does. It's that who bringing you to the table, who is taking that chance on you to say, come on.
Yes. And that leads me to remember about sponsors. And sponsors are not something we talk a lot about in this work. But Anna, I will say, you need to find a sponsor, somebody who is going to speak your name in rooms you are not in. Yeah. We talk about mentorship all the time. We are over mentored. Yes. Okay. We are over mentored.
Capacity building is just enough.
Okay. You need a sister I know, mentor, sponsor. You need a mentor or somebody you can just vent to. They ain't gonna say nothing, ain't gonna go nowhere but between you and them, okay? But you need a sponsor, someone who believes in you, who's where you want to be, who's gonna speak your name, because it's all about relationships.
And it's not the people that you sit at the table and talk to every day.
No, those are the mentors, okay?
It's not your kitchen table.
No, most likely not. You need somebody else. All right, one more question, and I'm gonna get my question in. Tara, what's going on? Glad you are here. How do you manage your feelings when making decisions as a leader? Let me know if you need me to elaborate. I understand. How do you all manage your feelings, your emotions? Well, I think one thing that's particularly difficult about doing this work in community is when you are also part of the community. So you are providing resources and spaces that you would probably actually attend and go to if you weren't leading or creating that space. And I think it absolutely makes it challenging to manage all the feelings and emotions around that. So I don't know who wants to take this one, but I feel
I'll real quickly just say, and it's because for about the past year, I've been working with my coach and mentor really on this. Attacks to the queer community, attacks to the Latina community. It is very difficult to not take personal. It is an attack on my very existence, but then also knowing that in my role as an executive director, as a leader in my organization, I have to sometimes control the emotions. And that also means, and reiterating what Jolie mentioned at the beginning, is hold up, this is not the time for me to respond. Because I know it takes some self-awareness to realize I'm not going to give an appropriate response right now because this is a direct attack on me as a human being. And so being aware of that, of knowing when it's time to, I'm not going to comment on this, or I'm not going to make a decision right now because my decision is going to cause much more harm than any good. Even if my reaction is a very human reaction. But because of the title one holds or the position you hold in your community, you have to be aware of that. But then also creating the space where other leaders in your community, where we can come together behind closed doors and be like, listen, I am about to lose my right. And just be like, I need space right now with other executive directors where we can just let it all out and cry and scream and curse out whoever we need to curse out, but then wipe each other's tears and be like, all right, now we got to go and keep our composure. So I think it takes some self-awareness to realize when it's time to not say anything. And I think those moments are much more important than the moments in which we do react.
I
Jolie.
just want to say ditto 1,000%. I also want to say righteous anger has a place. Our humanity has told us we shouldn't show it. We should try to keep a stiff upper lip, or you shouldn't cry in a certain space. But we have to free ourselves from that, because what it really is, what's really dictating that sort of reaction is a white hetero dominant culture that's telling us that those feelings are inappropriate. Those feelings to display are inappropriate. So sometimes it's also a little bit of bucking against what people have tried to impose on us as an appropriate way to react, and saying, no, I'm reacting because of the skin I'm in and the experiences I've had, and those are righteous, and this is an appropriate amount of anger right now. This is an appropriate amount of sadness, and I dare somebody to tell me otherwise. Bless their heart.
John, did you have something else too?
Yeah, Tara, I love this question, and I'm just giving you a big hug because it's an amazing question. I think one of the things that I've really had to learn to manage as a leader is defensiveness. And sometimes as white people, white cis men, we go straight to defensiveness. And I've had people call me out. I've had people call me in and be like, you were very defensive and you weren't listening. And I've really, definitely not, something I'm still working on managing. But it's folks have really taught me to listen and to hear what people are saying before I respond because of defensiveness.
I love that. I'll also add this before we close. It's a white supremacist framework to have the notion that business is not personal. I said, who said? I started this business. It is very personal. And the work that you do every single day, the 45, 50 hours you put in, the 55 you don't want to tell nobody about, is personal. You spend more time with that organization, that cause, that situation, than you probably spend with your family, right? It is very personal. And so I think creating space where leaders and those that work alongside you can truly show the emotion that is associated with the work. I think it's so very crucial to us being able to do this work effectively. I found it's Tasha Page Lockhart, Danica, the trap music that Zahara be listening to, the trap gospel. That's what that is. And family, we're about to close right now. But one thing I want to be for certain to ask each and every one of these panelists is about a resource. I think this is the time for us to be tapped into all the resources, not on social media. Don't wait for another post. Please don't wait for another post. Meta is outrageous. Okay. We need to be tapped into the resources. And so I asked all of them to prepare and share one or two resources that they think all of us should know about and support. So let's sound off. Y'all go one after another. Jolie, Zahara, Manny, and then John.
My list consists of Life is Work, Alma, AFC, Brave Space Alliance, All Chicago, Chicago House. I mean, there are just a plethora. Equality Illinois is a good one. There's a plethora of organizations out there if you're willing to find them. And please, please, please make sure you support. There's 3 words I use. You can advocate, you can donate, and you can volunteer. Pick a lane and drive down it.
Listen, I'm going to ditto what my sister said, so I ain't going to take up too much time because it's 6:03. So you all, yes, we are all available across the city, northwest, south, east, west, you name it, at your services. Alma, All Chicago, Center on Hosted, Chicago House, Cook County Health Corps, even Humble Design as well, with some organizations that need those resources. I believe they have an application process they've taken. It's the new year, so I think they're taking on new organizations. So I'd encourage any other organizations that need those resources to reach out to them directly. We are open Tuesday through Friday from 9 to 5 on the west side of Chicago. But we are also, I forgot about that one. COH and and Life is Work has partnered with a drop-in space for aging. We should be starting, I think, late January, early February for drop-ins. It's supposed to happen every Friday from 2 to 8, if I'm not mistaken. Please check the websites. Don't charge to my heart. Charge to my head, not my heart. But yes, we're starting to drop in for aging 25 and over of the LGBTQIA plus spectrum at their Center on Hosted location.
Center on Cottage Grove.
Center on Cottage Grove. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Center on Cottage Grove, starting late January, early February. And a provider will be available on site as well for people. So great services that we'll be partnering and trying to roll out this year. And if you all need me for anything, please reach out to me directly. Thank you all so much for having me.
Manny.
And I too would say the same thing, right? All the organizations here, AFC, Center on Halstead, Life is Work, Brave Space Alliance, Task Force Community Services, all great organizations that are doing a lot of work here in the city. But I will also say, because I'm a strong believer that in order to address health inequities, in order to address food insecurity, in order to address education, we have to address homelessness and housing insecurity. And so I would always also throw in La Casa Norte, which is out in Humboldt Park. They are an outstanding organization specifically helping families that are facing homelessness and housing insecurity, specifically youth as well. That majority of their youth are also LGBT identifying. So being able to support organizations that are really addressing homelessness and the housing insecurity within the city and in this country is the first start to really addressing health inequities in order to address employment and everything else that comes with being a human being in this country.
John, you got it.
All right, family, I'm the caboose here. So advocacy is going to be so important this year. And we have amazing elected officials in Washington, and they need to know that we have their backs. AIDS Foundation has amazing policy team, and we have a text message alert system that I want all of you to sign up for, please, so that you can contact your legislators. It takes 2 seconds. Take out your phone, text AFC, as in AIDS Foundation Chicago, to 40649. Again, text AFC to 40649 to sign up. And I promise we don't send alerts very often, but when they do, they are really, really, really important. And your elected officials need to hear from you that they're doing the right thing.
100%. All right. I also want to uplift Swish Queer Basketball Club. I want to uplift Chicago Black Gay Men's Caucus. I want to uplift Affinity Community Services. I want to uplift E3 Radio. Okay. Your queer artist, queer radio station out here in these streets. Family, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Please share this broadcast. Somebody needs to hear this message. Somebody needs to know about these resources. People need to be tapped in. They want to be. That's why we're doing this. And we are so glad you decided to join us tonight. And we're going to be around. These folks are busy doing the work. Go see them. I too come from the church. Okay, time, talent, and treasure. I promise you got one of the three. At any given moment, you've got one of the three. Find a way to use it. All right, we got this. We're going to do it together. We got the 75. Okay, we're going to get through this time like we've gotten through every other one together. That's the only way. So thank y'all for joining us tonight, and we'll see y'all around.
Thank you.
Ladies.